So I talked about in a video that I just made that I may or may not post because it was like all over the place and I need to figure out what really I need to talk about. A lot has been going on here. It's so wild. Every day is so long, and I have like class at 7:15 and then class again directly after that. Each one is about an hour, hour and a half long, and we have some like guest speakers. We'll have like Hasidus. We'll have we had also today Parsha Torah, which is like about the coming Parsha of the week. And I also spent an hour and a half between classes out with girls, walking around town and seeing everything and getting acquainted with this part of town. I like still totally didn't understand where we were, but like there's some really cool stuff around here. There's a vegan restaurant like right down the road. It's not, I don't think it's all vegan, but it's like mostly vegan. We stopped in this other health market first though, and I got a big juice with a kiwi, peach, or no, not peach, pear, and red apple, or not red apple, green apple. Too tired right now. But I figure if I don't do this now, it won't happen, or I'll get like really super far behind. But yeah, so that's like become my drink of choice, that and mango or peach nectar. Really, really good. So anyhow, I like love the food here. It's so pure and clean and like just like nutritionally, you can like feel it. It feels so good. And I like don't eat nearly as much. I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but I usually like stress eat a lot at home, and because I just like my connection to food is because of stress, and it's because I'm like I feel the need to be nurtured somehow because my environment is like depleting me, and but like recharging spiritually isn't really equivalent to recharging physically, unfortunately. So I'm getting a text message. I guess I should check. Oh, Rotom. Okay, he's in Mexico. Like what? And being invited to parties in America. Anyhow, so walking around town, we're like having such a nice day. Everybody's beautiful, like running into friends from our program and just really enjoying ourselves. We got to this vegan restaurant. I'm like taking pictures of everything. I was like, oh my gosh, my friend Sarah's gonna love this. Girl who got me into veganism. And I was like super excited. My friend and I each got like a little sample of soup, and one of the others got food, and we were sitting outside, and all of a sudden we hear sirens. Woo, woo, and like it's not like oh no, a tornado, like let's get in the house, like natural disaster. It's like this shock and like this feeling inside you that's like the horror. And honestly, I'm starting to really try to, when I feel that, not only to feel it from me and the people around me, but to feel it for the Palestinians in Gaza every time that they have rocket fire coming down on them, because they don't have the advent of an iron dome that is going to blow rockets out of the sky for them. They have Hamas and other people telling them to go into buildings that they might think are safe, but usually are holding missiles and are the ones that end up getting hit. Although Israeli intelligence and, well, the forces are sending flyers down from airplanes. What they do is they send flyers down from airplanes to tell Gazans to get out of certain buildings because they're going to blow them up because they have weapons. What else, this is like, how are they going to get rid of the weapons in the country? They can't get into the country, and forcibly do this stuff because they're going to be attacked. So they do it by drone and by rocket fire. And the point is not to kill Gazans. Unfortunately, it does. Often lots of Palestinians die. But the point is to disarm them. And unfortunately, it means they put a lot of people in harm's way, and on both sides. But Hamas has this idea that they can use human shields, and then they have this tally of, oh, you Jews killed this many of us. That's a part of it. Not all Palestinians are that way, but I definitely think that there's some really strong bad intentions on behalf of these people for their own people. Like, oh yeah, if they die, it's just more fuel against Israel for the rest of the world to be like, oh, look what Israel did. So anyhow, we try, but I don't think that they can like really fully keep people safe because of their own government, which is what's twisted and crazy about it. Anyhow, we heard the siren, and this shop that this place that we were at was completely open. Like there's a really huge open door of the entrance, and these big glass windows, and like there are like some really weird like fortifying, not walls, but like pillars that are like on the sides of the walls of this building. But like that's not going to stop a rocket. Like this thing, especially to get to Jerusalem from Gaza, is going to be that much bigger, that much stronger. It's going to be like as like the height of a room, like I guess that's like 10, 15 feet high, and moving a lot faster and harder than some of the stuff that's like landing in the places that are closer to Ashdod, Beersheba, Ashkelon, and like the Negev. And that's because they don't have very good aim, but they send those shorter like flying missiles because they can, and every now and then a big one to scare everybody in Jerusalem, or to really make some kind of attempt. But at any rate, we hear this siren, and there's so much happening so fast that everybody, just like probably 20 people, huddled into like the middle of this building because there are no interior walls. There are only exterior walls. Even in the kitchens, and people were like trying to get in the kitchen, and there was no point. It was like there are exterior walls there too. So I'm in this building looking outside, like waiting for a missile to come crashing into the building because I know that it's nearby, and we hear a bang, and like suddenly like everybody is like quiet, and like the siren stopped, and we come out and see smoke in the sky where the Iron Dome has just intercepted this missile or this rocket. And it wasn't just like, oh, a rocket that like fell somewhere outside of Israel. Usually it's like, oh, a place over there, whatever. It was right over Mea Shearim, which is a neighborhood like right next to us, where that lady came from that I was talking about with the Breslov the other day. She came from that neighborhood to talk to us, and just the idea that I could see, like, it was like if I was at my house looking at like clouds, not even clouds, like fog, just above the house of my neighbor catty corner to me. It was that close. It was really mind blowing and like shocking. I haven't felt that like like shaken in a while. Like that kind of fear. It's like it's so primal. It's like it's really crazy. And to think that people are living with it every day is like really terrifying and sad and awful. And I'm not talking about just, there's a moth now, should go away. I'm not just talking about Israelis, I'm talking about Palestinians too, because I recognize that this is a real thing, in that it's a cycle of terror that is occurring on both sides, that it continuously fuels the other. And the harsh responses of the Israelis to the incitement, the initial attacks from the Gazans is traumatizing enough so that they're raising their children to hate our people in this land and to retaliate with so much brute force against masculinity. And it's just really not ideal, clearly. And I'm really trying to understand it from both sides. I'm like trying not to take a total like pro-Israeli Zionist Jewish bias, because I realize that there are real people on all corners of it. And that's what I want for everybody to do. I'm not saying like I'm right and everybody should do this, but I think ultimately communication and mutual understanding and empathy, or at least trying and making an effort is really prime and going to be pivotal in making any kind of agreements ever, if peace is ever going to happen. So yeah, that was just like a really jarring experience. We had to like sit right back down and go back to life because it's what we do. We Israelis have been saying it for years, and I've never really been here when it's occurring, but I understand now what it means that something happens, and before and afterwards, you can't be stuck in that moment of fear. You have to live right now for what's happening in the blue sky and the people around you and the food that you're eating and the life that you're living, because otherwise you're missing out and you're not living life. So yeah, it was a really powerful experience to be so close to that. Um, After that, we said a couple of prayers for the peace in Israel, for the soldiers, and in my mind, I was too thinking of Palestinians and talking about and hoping for their peace, for peace for everyone. And I got into a conversation later on. Actually, I was in the middle of one when we were sitting there at the lunch table. I was like so shaken. I was like writing. I took a picture of the smoke in the sky after these rockets hit each other, and I'm writing to people who are defending Gaza and saying we want a free Palestine, you know. And I'm saying, wait, free Palestine. What does that mean? I that concerns me. I'm not saying people shouldn't be free. Like, you know, they're meant to be refugees. They're bad. Whatever. No, I'm saying freedom. I'm all about freedom. If that means that both sides can have freedom, if that means that freeing Palestine means coming and killing Israelis and decimating Judaism and the land and making it back into I don't want to say bad things, but an all Arabic space that was before we got here not as fertile and not as productive, then, but mostly about the killing people, like that's totally hypocritical. It's exactly what Palestinians are so upset about that the Israelis and Jews did when they first came and did by British mandate and wiped them out of the land. You gonna do that again? Like, you talk about Israelis and Jews being hypocrites for, you know, following the footsteps of Hitler and like creating a genocide, which is not the case. There's no like implication or idea of genocide. Honestly, I say this and I don't mean to be harsh, but if Israel wanted a genocide, it would be done by now, and that's obviously not the case. So, but really, what I'm getting at is that hypocrisy is what is keeping at least a large portion, I believe, of the pro-Palestinian side from having the discourse that we need. Because if you want freedom and you want to just take down the walls, bus bombings are going to start happening again. People are going to be getting shot in the street. It's going to be mass murder. And, well, wait a minute. Then what's the genocide coming from? So it's really hard to come to an agreement or to have a discourse when our definitions of things are different, our understandings of things, and our ideas of what's going to happen, you know, given this situation, and, you know, given this concept or condition. It's not that simple. It's not just like, oh yeah, free them. Like, why don't you just? It's, well, we obviously can't. That's not in our best interest. And, well, frankly, we need to do what's in our own best interest. You can't help anybody else until you can help yourself. So Israel's defending itself. That's why we have a defense force that only retaliates, doesn't start, and only ever did on, I believe, the Yom Kippur War, when they were cornered on all sides by Muslim and Arabic armies from literally all of the countries on their borders, with the exception, I think, of Saudi Arabia. But, so, yeah, it was a really intense day in terms of that. We were all talking a lot about, you know, the different things. And I don't like to hear people say that, oh, they're animals and the Palestinians, you know, they're like a different breed. They're made to be evil. No, these people are our cousins. And I think that there's just been so much transgression from our unity as Semitic peoples that we don't understand how to use what we have in common to come together. And I don't know what the answer is. I'm not saying I have answers, but I have hope. I think we have to have hope, and we have to keep praying, and we have to keep like really believing that like somehow, some way, and to keep talking, to keep trying to find honesty and truth in all of this. And that's why I don't profess to live in, you know, a land of justice and, you know, pure beauty and elegance. It's messy, and it's not always so pretty. So that's a lot. I guess. That's really the topic that I wanted to talk about here. There's a lot more that could be said. I posted an article recently about those 13 things that Jews should stop saying, and here I'll share a little bit of that because I think it's important to keep having an understanding, not just of like what we're told and like how things are and like what's all in the media and easy to believe, whether you're pro-Israeli, pro-Palestinian, but like just really trying to take different perspectives. This one was, let's see, I think it was on, what website? Why would you send this to me? People keep inviting me to events and like not realizing that I'm halfway across the world. It's nice though, it's nice to be wanted. You know, of course, never until you leave wherever you were. Okay. I'm getting this. Israel supporters must stop using these 13 phrases. It's on, I can't even pronounce this website. Alright, West Bank. So basically, people talking about Judea and Samaria. There's a relevance of this being a biblical name, but people are saying that that's not enough. Stands history on its head. Hebrew origin terms Judea and Samaria were used through 1950 when invading Transjordan renamed them the West Bank of the Jordan River. That's why it's called the West Bank, even though it's like east of Jerusalem. That's the reasoning for its name. In order to dissociate it from Jewish homeland of the Jews. And so, yeah, it was partitioned by the UN in 1947. They did not refer to it as the West Bank, but the hill country of Samaria and Judea in their own terms. So, I don't know, that's just a tidbit that, like, I don't know, it's tough to say. People also say, oh, Palestine, what's that? Like, what are you calling Palestine? But it's as real as people believe it to be, so I don't know how much I agree with that one. Then East Jerusalem, or traditionally Arab East Jerusalem, again, it's sort of like seceding parts of Israel to Palestinian Arabs and saying that it like belongs to them somehow when technically it doesn't, which this is also difficult. The UN sought to create Jewish and Palestinian states by partitioning Palestine between Palestinians and Jews. It's like partitioning Pennsylvania between Pennsylvanians and Jews over and over. In its 1947 partition resolution, it says the UN referenced the Jewish state and the Arab, not Palestinian state. So an Arab state, and that is a distinction that people make often, actually. Arab, Arab Israeli, Arab Jew, well, actually, yeah, there are Arab Jews. Arab Palestinian, I don't know, but yeah, that's a toughie. Yeah, 1948 as the creation, not the founding of Israel. That's a big difference. Israel was like kind of basically reinstated in 1948. That's the concept there. The war that followed Israel's creation of, again, this is tough, and Palestinian refugees of the war that followed Israel's creation, Palestinian refugee issue. These things I think are real, insofar as the fact that there are people who feel displaced. What more do you need to define a refugee? So, although the true reasoning behind this is that, well, we fought a war, we won it, so what do you want? Like, we offered this land and the people to go to these other Arabic and Muslim countries, when we offered Gaza to Egypt and they said no, Israel had no choice but to keep these people under their control. It's not like, oh yeah, we want to like own these people and like keep them under our watch or something. Like the Israeli Jews don't want this, or the Israeli military doesn't want that responsibility. It's of no interest to them. About seizing Arab lands. I mean, people keep saying it was a defensive war that was like forced upon Israel, and they had to fight. So ultimately, they, won, and then the deal was the Palestinians had to leave. But before that, Palestinians were undoubtedly pushed out. I have multiple Palestinian friends who have told me otherwise, and I don't get the inkling that they're lying so fervently about this issue. About direct experiences of their parents and grandparents. It's just too much. Israel's Jewish state recognition is a new stumbling block. This I agree with. Like, that should not be a thing. There's a reason that we need Israel to be a Jewish state. Everywhere that Jews go in the diaspora has made us so divided, and so many Jews are not connecting with themselves or with spirit or with anything anymore. It's like really tangible, and that makes them belong to something, and we need that as people. We need that in general. We need not identity so that we can have ego, but we need identity so that we have direction. I think that's really important. So it needs to be a Jewish state. And the idea that Palestinians accept and Israelis reject a two-state solution, I guess it's hard to really say this from one side or the other, but I think both want a two-state solution. Some people do on the Palestinian side, and some people definitely don't on the Israeli side. I know that for sure on the Jewish side, but for sure a lot of them reject it. It's just, that's human nature, and there's not going to be the idea of a two-state solution that everybody likes. So that's pretty simple. And using the word Palestinians, which technically there's no Palestinian state, even though they petitioned for statehood with the UN. Didn't happen. There's no Palestinian state. But if somebody calls themselves something, and it's not some outside thing that needs to be validated by some other higher authority, then yes, people can call themselves Palestinians. Like, I don't see what the big deal is about that. So I did post this, and I guess it's just kind of in one part like playing devil's advocate, and for another part I do agree with some of these things, but I just thought it was important to talk about. I got in a little debate with a friend about it, a couple of friends, and yeah, it's good to have discourse on this. Let's see, how tired do I look? I look really tired. I am really tired. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to be awake or try. 20 minutes in. Good night.